They told you to be self-made. They told you to grind alone, to isolate, to suffer in silence. But let me tell you something the world forgot to mention. No one rises alone. No empire was ever built in a vacuum. No dream ever came alive without minds colliding, clashing, conspiring for greatness. Behind every titan was a table. And around that table, a mastermind. This isn't just a concept. It's a force. A mastermind is when two or more minds unite in perfect harmony for a definite purpose, and in that union, something divine is born. A third mind, a higher intelligence, a source of power greater than any one individual could ever summon alone. Napoleon Hill didn't make this up. He discovered it while studying the giants: Carnegie, Ford, Edison, Rockefeller. The men who reshaped history were not lone wolves. They were generals commanding brilliant armies of minds. And the battlefield was not blood. It was vision. It was strategy. It was collaboration at the highest frequency. Andrew Carnegie had 50 men he called his mastermind alliance, and he credited every single dollar of his vast fortune to that group. Thomas Edison surrounded himself with brilliant chemists, mathematicians, engineers, and they were the sparks behind the light bulb. Henry Ford met with other powerful thinkers every single Saturday to exchange ideas, argue philosophy, sharpen clarity, and accelerate innovation. This is the truth the modern world has lost, that your success is not just tied to what you know, but to who you align with. Because when you form a mastermind, you're not just multiplying intelligence, you're creating an entirely new mind, a living, breathing, thinking force of creation. It sees what you cannot. It challenges your ego. It stokes your courage. It demands evolution. It shatters comfort zones. It removes blind spots. It eliminates stagnation. And above all else, it holds you accountable to the greatness you said you wanted. Most people fail not because they lack ambition, but because they isolate themselves in their own delusion. They surround themselves with mediocrity. They sit at tables where small talk replaces strategy, where opinions are loud but vision is silent. They tolerate circles that drain instead of elevate. But you're here for more. You're here to build something that lasts, to leave fingerprints on the world, to accelerate your climb, to multiply your genius. You're here to form or join your mastermind. Because let me make this clear, you can go fast alone, but you'll only go far with powerfully aligned minds at your side. This is the law, a spiritual law, a psychological law, a creative law. When two or more come together in harmony, focused on a clear and definite purpose, their minds merge to create something bigger, smarter, more capable than either could become alone. And that is the true secret weapon of the elite. Not hustle, not luck, but the sacred alliance of minds in perfect harmony. Now ask yourself, who sits at your table? Who sharpens your blade? Who challenges your vision, not to break it, but to strengthen it? Who pushes you beyond what you thought was possible, not by force, but by belief? Because if you sit with doubters, you'll become one. If you speak only to the limited, your ideas will shrink to fit their cage. If you keep trying to build an empire with people who only dream in inches, you will never leap in miles. The mastermind is the multiplier of miracles. It is the one power that turns sparks into infernos, desire into destiny, goals into legacies, and the price of not forming one? Stagnation, frustration, and a slow death of potential. So listen to me now. Find your mastermind, or remain half-powered for life. You've got vision, yes, but vision alone will not carry you. You've got drive, but drive without direction only digs deeper ruts. You've got ideas, but ideas without refinement, without conflict, without debate, they rot in the shadows of your comfort. A mastermind? It burns the fog off your thinking. It illuminates the path where you once wandered blind. It injects momentum where you once crawled. And it does something no self-help book, no solo meditation, no journal entry ever could. It brings fire to your imagination through the electric charge of aligned minds. Think of Nikola Tesla and George Westinghouse. One, the brilliant inventor. The other, the visionary businessman. Together, they brought alternating current to the world. Without the alliance, without the mastermind, the light we take for granted would have stayed trapped in wires and notebooks. You've got vision, yes, but vision alone will not carry you. You've got drive, but drive without direction only digs deeper ruts. You've got ideas, but ideas without refinement, without conflict, without debate, they rot in the shadows of your comfort. A mastermind? It burns the fog off your thinking. It illuminates the path where you once wandered blind. It injects momentum where you once crawled. And it does something no self-help book, no solo meditation, no journal entry ever could. It brings fire to your imagination through the electric charge of aligned minds. Think of Nikola Tesla and George Westinghouse. One, the brilliant inventor. The other, the visionary businessman. Together, they brought alternating current to the world. Without the alliance, without the mastermind, the light we take for granted would have stayed trapped in wires and notebooks. You see, when two minds come together in harmony for a definite purpose, they create a third, invisible force. A mastermind is not just a group. It's not a meeting. It's not a networking session with catered lunch and polite applause. It is a sacred union, a battlefield where truth gets forged, clarity gets born, and greatness gets demanded. This is why Andrew Carnegie didn't call his mastermind a team. He called it a council, a force. He didn't gather yes men. He gathered men of sharp thought, deep will, and unified fire. And that circle, that living brain trust, was worth more than all the gold mines he ever owned. Ask yourself right now, who makes up your mastermind? Or better yet, why haven't you formed one? Is it pride, ego, fear of being challenged, fear of being seen? Because you will never grow past the limits of your own perspective. Never rise higher than the average of the 5 minds you engage with daily. And if you want to build something lasting, enduring, legendary, you must build it on the foundation of intelligent alliance. Napoleon Hill said this plainly. No two minds ever come together without thereby creating a third, invisible, intangible force, which may be likened to a third mind. That's not poetry. That's law. You want to build wealth? Surround yourself with wealthy minds. You want to lead? Sit beside leaders who challenge you. You want to create? Merge your thinking with visionaries who make you uncomfortable. Iron sharpens iron, but only when iron dares to strike. And here's the brutal truth. Most people aren't failing because they don't work hard enough. They're failing because they keep trying to build skyscrapers with garden tools and no blueprint. They keep trying to do it all alone because the world has sold them the poison of solo success. But the titans, the greats, they knew the secret. They formed alliances. They gathered at round tables. They forged ideas through debate. They unlocked new worlds through conversation. They didn't just build, they co-created. Walt Disney didn't dream Disneyland alone. He sat with minds like Roy Disney and Herb Ryman, mapping out magic together. Steve Jobs didn't build Apple by himself. He formed a mastermind with Wozniak and others, melding tech, design, and vision into one relentless organism. The Founding Fathers of America? A mastermind group so powerful it birthed a nation. You think it's coincidence? The mastermind isn't optional. It's essential. And without it, you're running at 40% potential on your best day. You need people who won't let you settle. You need thinkers who raise the bar. You need mirrors who reflect your greatness back at you when you forget it yourself. You need minds that force you to grow, or you'll shrink into your fears. But this is the catch. The mastermind only works in harmony. It's not enough to assemble a group. You must align your spirits, your standards, your visions. You must be bound by mutual purpose. Mutual accountability, mutual belief. The wrong mastermind can poison your path faster than isolation ever could. So choose wisely. Surround yourself with minds of elevation, not envy. With voices of reason, not resentment. With builders, not blamers. With souls on fire for something larger than themselves. Because when you do, you won't just move faster. You won't just dream bigger. You will step into a dimension of creative power most never taste. The mindset of magnetic leaders. To create a mastermind, you must first become the kind of person who attracts a mastermind. This is no accident. The universe does not deliver alliances to the weak-willed or the half-committed. It delivers power only to those who show power in their thoughts, actions, and character. You don't get to sit at the table of greatness if you still argue with your own doubts every morning. You don't get to surround yourself with titans if you have a history of quitting when the pressure rises. You don't get to call yourself a visionary if you shrink from honest criticism and uncomfortable truths. A true mastermind requires leaders with 1. Relentless discipline. Discipline is not about harshness. It is about respecting your future self. It is the daily practice of small battles won, because every day you conquer your distractions, your excuses, your fears, you are carving a path others will follow. The mastermind does not tolerate laziness or excuses. Discipline is the soil in which trust is planted. Without discipline, alliances crumble. 2. Unshakable belief. Every person you bring into your circle must know this truth. Failure is not a verdict. It is a lesson. Every setback is a spark, and every spark is the light guiding the mastermind's journey forward. Belief is the lifeblood. It fuels ideas, it sharpens focus, and it bridges the gap between vision and reality. 3. Radical transparency. There is no room for masks here. The mastermind demands honesty, brutal, loving honesty. You bring your real self to the circle, your struggles, your doubts, your wildest ambitions. Only in radical truth can trust grow. And without trust, the mastermind disintegrates into noise. 4. Fierce accountability. When you sit with your mastermind, you don't just hear affirmations. You hear challenges. You hear calls to action. You are held accountable, not by a boss, not by a client, but by equals who demand your highest standards. And the greatest gift a mastermind gives you is the relentless refusal to let you settle. 5. Shared purpose. The mastermind is not a club for convenience. It is a battlefield for those who share a vision so big it consumes them. When your purpose aligns, you become unstoppable. Your goals don't just live in your mind, they become the mission of the collective. To build this mindset, you must invest in yourself more than ever before. Read relentlessly. Work out like your life depends on it. Meditate like your clarity depends on it. Visualize like your dreams depend on it. Because they do. The world's greatest minds did not stumble upon their success by accident. They cultivated the mindset that draws greatness, and then they commanded greatness. And once you develop this mindset, you don't chase masterminds. They chase you. The question is, are you ready to become that person? Are you ready to be the magnetic force that pulls together the greatest minds, the fiercest hearts, and the boldest visions? Because when you do, when you show up with this mindset, the mastermind no longer feels like a dream. It becomes your reality. How to forge your mastermind? The alchemy of alignment. The mastermind isn't born from convenience. It's forged in purpose. It doesn't happen because you want to network. It happens because you are hungry for transformation, because you know your destiny is bigger than your current circle. So how do you create a mastermind that transcends the ordinary, that becomes a crucible of unstoppable force? It starts with one brutal truth. You cannot build your mastermind alone. You must seek, you must reach, you must risk the rejection, the misalignment, the clash of egos. But most men never try, because fear whispers, what if they don't get you? What if you don't belong? What if you fail? But greatness was never born from comfort zones. Remember, Edison was rejected thousands of times before he lit the world. Carnegie was laughed at as a poor Scottish immigrant before he owned steel. Lincoln was defeated repeatedly before he led a nation. Their mastermind was forged through relentless pursuit of alignment. Here's how you do it. 1. Define your vision with ruthless clarity. Know exactly who you are becoming and why. Your vision is a beacon. It attracts like moths to flame. Without clarity, your mastermind will be a scatter of mismatched ambitions. With it, you magnetize the right minds. 2. Identify your core values and non-negotiables. What principles do you refuse to compromise? Integrity, excellence, accountability, passion. Your mastermind must move in harmony with these values or it will collapse under friction. 3. Start with 1 or 2 aligned minds. Don't wait for the perfect group. Start small. Find 1 or 2 people who reflect your hunger and challenge your limits. Invite them into your world. Share your vision honestly and ask, will you walk with me? 4. Create a culture of radical honesty. Establish sacred ground rules. No ego, no excuses, no distractions. The mastermind is a place for truth, tough love, relentless challenge, and unwavering support. 5. Meet consistently and commit fully. Momentum is built through consistency. You can't have a mastermind that gathers once a year and expect transformation. Set a schedule, commit fiercely, and hold each other to the fire of accountability. Each of these steps is a warrior's path, filled with trial, courage, and reward. Because the prize is not just wealth or success, it is evolution. The mastermind turns individual ambition into collective power. It transforms dreams into actions, plans into legacies. And the man who masters this art does not just rise, he redefines what rising means. Guarding the flame, how to sustain and elevate your mastermind. Building a mastermind is the first battle. Keeping it alive, sharp, and relentlessly productive, that's the war. You see, even the strongest alliances face tests. Egos flare, commitments waver, distractions creep in, comfort tempts you to settle. The true test of a mastermind isn't its birth, it's its endurance. So how do you guard the sacred flame? 1. Protect the circle like a fortress. The mastermind is your sanctuary. It's where your highest ideas live. Protect it fiercely. Keep distractions out. Screen new members carefully. Your circle should feel like an exclusive citadel. Only the most devoted are invited in. 2. Kill complacency with unyielding standards. Complacency is the enemy of growth. If someone stops pushing the limits, you call it out. You challenge. You demand more. Growth is non-negotiable. If the flame flickers, you fan it with expectation. 3. Foster fierce accountability, not comfort. The mastermind is not a place to feel good about yourself. It's a place to be better than you were yesterday. Accountability is love in action. If a brother or sister falls behind, the group rallies, but never at the cost of lowering standards. 4. Keep the vision burning brighter than the ego. Vision is the glue. Ego is the poison. When conflicts arise, ask what serves the vision. Set aside personal agendas. Focus on the mission. This is the only way the mastermind survives storms. 5. Celebrate wins, but chase new heights. Acknowledge victories, but never rest in them. Every win is a stepping stone to a higher mountain. Use success as fuel to accelerate, not a pause to relax. Masterminds are living organisms. They breathe, they grow, they must be fed, and you are the steward, the guardian of the flame. The relentless force that refuses to let the circle fall into darkness. Because what you build here echoes beyond your lifetime. The power of collective minds, aligned in relentless pursuit of greatness. This is the legacy you create. Legends of the mastermind, history's greatest circles of power. To understand the true power of the mastermind, we must look to the men and women who wielded it like a weapon, who bent history to their will, not by lone genius, but by the unbreakable bonds of collective minds. Imagine a cold winter in the White House, 1862. The nation is torn in civil war. Abraham Lincoln sits in his war room, surrounded not by sycophants, but by the best minds of his era, his cabinet of rivals. These men, fierce and proud, did not always agree. They clashed in debates as fiery as the cannons outside. But from their fierce friction, a unity was forged, a shared vision that held the country together. This was Lincoln's mastermind. It was not peace, it was purpose. A vision so clear that it swallowed personal differences whole. Lincoln understood this truth. No man leads a nation alone. Even the greatest president must gather a circle that challenges, that sharpens, that elevates. And from that circle, a nation was saved. Now look to the steel cities of Pittsburgh in the late 19th century. Andrew Carnegie, the Scottish immigrant who rose from poverty to build the greatest steel empire the world had ever seen. But Carnegie was not a lone titan. He surrounded himself with relentless minds like Henry Clay Frick and Charles Schwab. Together, they built a mastermind that revolutionized industry. What made Carnegie's circle unstoppable was alignment of vision and insatiable hunger. Carnegie's vision was clear: to build steel that would build America. And his circle shared that vision with a ferocity that overcame strikes, depressions, and rivals. Their mastermind was a storm, fierce, focused, and unrelenting. Think of Thomas Edison, often called a lone genius, but in truth he was the leader of a vast mastermind at Menlo Park. Edison gathered a team of brilliant inventors, scientists, and engineers who challenged ideas, sparked innovation, and turned failure into invention. His famous quote wasn't about solo brilliance. It was about collaborative persistence. Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. But that perspiration was shared sweat, shared labor, shared minds grinding together until light exploded into the world. Or Walt Disney, the dreamer who surrounded himself with animators, storytellers, and technicians who believed not just in cartoons but in changing culture. His mastermind pushed boundaries of imagination and technology. When others mocked his vision, his circle carried the fire forward. They turned a mouse into a global empire. These legends teach us that the mastermind is not a social club. It is a battlefield of minds, a forge of destiny. And at its heart lies a sacred truth. Your success is inseparable from the minds you merge with. The journey is not lonely if you understand this. You don't climb the mountain alone. You bring your tribe, you bind your souls, you lock your minds. Together, you become an immovable force, an avalanche that reshapes landscapes, breaks barriers, and changes the course of history. But beware, because the mastermind is not for the faint-hearted. It will test you. It will break you. It will force you to confront your ego, your fears, your weaknesses. Because only in that breaking can you be rebuilt stronger. And that is why most men never find or build a true mastermind. They fear the fire. They fear the intensity. They fear the truth. They would rather settle for comfort, approval, and illusions of progress. But not you. You feel the pull. You hear the call. You know that greatness demands more than solo effort. It demands the storm of many minds. So you seek, you reach, you become the leader who draws others in, the man who refuses to settle, the soul who says, I will build my destiny with others, or I will not build it at all. When you take that step, when you create or join a mastermind, you open the door to something extraordinary. You open the door to exponential growth, to clarity when confusion reigns, to strength when weakness threatens, to insight when the path is dark, to a tribe that refuses to let you fall. This is your invitation, to build, to rise, to conquer, not alone, but as a united force. Because the mastermind is not just power, it is legacy, and the legacy you leave is the lives you elevate along the way. You see, when two minds come together in harmony for a definite purpose, they create a third, invisible force. A mastermind is not just a group. It's not a meeting. It's not a networking session with catered lunch and polite applause. It is a sacred union. A battlefield where truth gets forged, clarity gets born, and greatness gets demanded. This is why Andrew Carnegie didn't call his mastermind a team. He called it a council, a force. He didn't gather yes men. He gathered men of sharp thought, deep will, and unified fire. And that circle, that living brain trust, was worth more than all the gold mines he ever owned. Ask yourself right now, who makes up your mastermind? Or better yet, why haven't you formed one? Is it pride? Ego? Fear of being challenged? Fear of being seen? Because you will never grow past the limits of your own perspective. Never rise higher than the average of the 5 minds you engage with daily. And if you want to build something lasting, enduring, legendary, you must build it on the foundation of intelligent alliance. Napoleon Hill said this plainly. No two minds ever come together without thereby creating a third, invisible, intangible force, which may be likened to a third mind. That's not poetry. That's law. You want to build wealth? Surround yourself with wealthy minds. You want to lead? Sit beside leaders who challenge you. You want to create? Merge your thinking with visionaries who make you uncomfortable. Iron sharpens iron, but only when iron dares to strike. And here's the brutal truth. Most people aren't failing because they don't work hard enough. They're failing because they keep trying to build skyscrapers with garden tools and no blueprint. They keep trying to do it all alone, because the world has sold them the poison of solo success. But the titans, the greats, they knew the secret. They formed alliances. They gathered at round tables. They forged ideas through debate. They unlocked new worlds through conversation. They didn't just build, they co-created. Walt Disney didn't dream Disneyland alone. He sat with minds like Roy Disney and Herb Ryman, mapping out magic together. Steve Jobs didn't build Apple by himself. He formed a mastermind with Wozniak and others, melding tech, design, and vision into one relentless organism. The Founding Fathers of America? A mastermind group so powerful it birthed a nation. You think it's coincidence? The mastermind isn't optional, it's essential. And without it, you're running at 40% potential on your best day. You need people who won't let you settle. You need thinkers who raise the bar. You need mirrors who reflect your greatness back at you when you forget it yourself. You need minds that force you to grow, or you'll shrink into your fears. But this is the catch. The mastermind only works in harmony. It's not enough to assemble a group. You must align your spirits, your standards, your visions. You must be bound by mutual purpose, mutual accountability, mutual belief. The wrong mastermind can poison your path faster than isolation ever could. So choose wisely. Surround yourself with minds of elevation, not envy. with voices of reason, not resentment, with builders, not blamers, with souls on fire for something larger than themselves. Because when you do, you won't just move faster, you won't just dream bigger, you will step into a dimension of creative power most never taste. There comes a point in every man's journey where he looks around and realizes something unsettling. He's been trying to build an empire with a matchstick and wet wood. He has vision, he has hunger, he has the scars of trying, but still, the fire won't start. Because what he lacks is not effort, what he lacks is amplification. You cannot build a furnace with one spark. You cannot lift the world with one back. You cannot rise to legendary heights using only the power of your individual mind. And that is where the true giants separate themselves from the strugglers. That is the invisible line between average and unstoppable. Between those who hustle alone and those who assemble power. This is the power of the mastermind. And if you don't understand it, if you don't respect it, you will never know wealth. You will never feel freedom. Because your own potential, no matter how great, is limited until it is multiplied by those around you. The ancient warriors knew this. Caesar knew it. Carnegie, Edison, Rockefeller, Ford. They didn't just build ideas, they built alliances. They didn't seek to be the smartest in the room, they built the room of the smartest. Napoleon Hill didn't write about this as a nice concept. He called it one of the absolute requirements of success. One of the laws of achievement. He said, "No two minds ever come together without thereby creating a third, invisible, intangible force, which may be likened to a third mind, the mastermind." Let that sink in. There is a third mind, greater than yours, greater than theirs, that is only born when you lock in harmony with the right people. It's not a group, it's not a meeting, it's not a committee. It's a power grid, a fusion of mental energy, belief, faith, purpose, and direction that amplifies thought, shortens time, multiplies execution, and creates wealth. You want to move fast? Go alone. You want to move far? Build a mastermind. Let me tell you this now so you never forget it. Your destiny will never exceed the level of people you surround yourself with. You cannot grow past the ceiling of your circle. Your environment is either fertilizing your greatness or poisoning it. The conversations you hear every day are either feeding your faith or feeding your fear. The people around you are either clapping for your excuses or challenging your excellence. The man who understands the power of the mastermind doesn't settle for comfort, he seeks alignment. He doesn't ask who agrees with him, he asks who makes him better. You don't need a crowd, you need the right two. You don't need 100 voices, you need 3 that speak truth into your purpose. You don't need yes men, you need mind expanders, mission builders, soul forgers. So ask yourself, who challenges your thinking, who stretches your belief, who adds velocity to your vision? If you can't answer that, you're not in a mastermind, you're just in motion. The greatest athletes have coaches and inner circles. The greatest CEOs have boards, war rooms, trusted minds. The greatest creators had partners, muses, supporters, those who fan the flames when their fire dimmed. Walt Disney had Roy Disney. Henry Ford had Thomas Edison. Napoleon Hill had Andrew Carnegie. And you need your team of minds. You need your elevation circle. Because the truth is this: no one becomes unstoppable alone. Not in this world, not in this economy, not in this age of relentless pressure and noise. If you're fighting for a dream, if you're clawing toward a vision that the average man can't even see, you better start building your mastermind alliance now. Because your next level is not on the other side of more hustle. It's on the other side of better connection. This is the new standard, the new measure of strategic power. You don't rise by chance, you rise by design. And design begins with alignment. If you want to be unstoppable, you must stop walking alone. Lone wolves die in the cold. Kings build kingdoms, and no kingdom in history, none, was ever built by one man, one mind, one hand. Behind every empire was a brotherhood. Behind every revolution was a circle of minds. Behind every legendary success story was a mastermind. What is the mastermind? It is the force multiplier of destiny. It is the spiritual alliance of aligned men and women who come together in harmony, not just to talk, but to think, to build, to ignite. When you link minds in a spirit of harmony, what you create is not just collaboration. You create power, power beyond what any one person can summon alone. Think of Edison and his research team at Menlo Park. Think of Carnegie and his board of steel titans. Think of Disney and his inner circle of animators and visionaries. The world remembers the name of the frontman, but the reality behind every fortune is a mastermind. A circle of trust, a convergence of intelligence, a sacred commitment to a mission so big it shatters individual limits. That's what this is about. Not just building wealth, not just climbing the ladder, but unleashing a force that multiplies your potential into something immovable. And it begins the moment you decide, I will no longer walk alone. I will no longer try to outwork the world in silence. I will surround myself with power. I will attract minds greater than mine. I will align with men and women who speak in vision, not complaint, who move in purpose, not comfort, who rise in unity, not ego. That decision alone will be the day your future shifts, and what you build from that day forward will be nothing less than unstoppable. You want to know why most people stay stuck? Because they try to solve every problem from inside the same mind that created it. They isolate, they hide, they grind in silence, hoping effort will do what strategy, alignment, and powerful counsel were designed to do. But let me tell you the truth. Success is not a solo sport. Greatness is not born in echo chambers. And the highest levels of wealth, impact, and legacy require one thing above all: a mastermind. So ask yourself, who challenges you to think deeper? Who holds you to your highest standard? Who would call you out if you started playing small? If you can't name them, you're walking in the dark. It's time to turn on the light. And the switch is the mastermind.